E3 told us a lot about the Division 2. During the event, I tried to keep up with as much as possible with all the information by releasing a video every single day, and I think I did a decent job. The thing is though, is that some of those videos, they had a couple of mistakes, and if you really want to watch it all in your search of information about the Division 2, you're looking at about an hour worth of your time. I wouldn't mind that, of course, if you did that, because that's gonna give me those fat YouTube views. But I gotta say, it's probably a little bit inconvenient for you. So to round up E3, I wanted to put together a video with pretty much everything that we know about the Division 2, from the setting to the gameplay changes to the gear and to the end game. And so that is what this video is. This is everything that we know about the Division 2 after E3. And we're gonna go through this fast, so you better pay attention. Starting off with the setting, the game takes place in Washington, D.C., 7 months after the original game, so it's pretty much midsummer, and you play with an entirely new character that you of course have to recreate yourself. This means that indeed nothing will carry over from the first game, but you can start earning some rewards for the Division 2 by playing the Division 1 right now. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. The map that we'll be playing on is an exact 1-to-1 scale to the real DC, so if you live in DC, Washington, you'll definitely know your way around the map, and from what we can see, it pretty much covers this area, which is said to be 20 to 25% larger than the map for the Division 1, as confirmed by the developers. From the trailers and the gameplay that YouTubers have uploaded, it appears that the gameplay has been slowed down a little bit to force a more cover-based experience upon the players. Medkits cannot be instantly activated, they require a 2-second animation, which will be interrupted when the player takes damage. And also, they're not called medkits anymore, they're called armor plates, because the player will now have this armor bar above his health bar, which does not regenerate in combat, and if you want to heal that up, if you want to repair that, so to speak, you have to go through the 2-second animation of pulling the old plate out of your armor and then putting a new plate back in. That's why we're calling them plates now, and not medkits. And that's just one change. There are also some other changes, such as that you cannot revive each other as often anymore, because there's a cooldown on reviving. If you go down twice within 30 seconds, you will instantly go to the complete dead state. This is all meant to, again, make long-range combat a little bit more viable, to reduce phase tanking, to make sure that the game is actually a little more focused around the cover, because it is a cover-based shooter, so those are the changes that we've seen so far. Signature skills such as the tech link, the blue link, and the recovery link, they've also been removed from the game, and in their place we now have specializations. Specializations are kind of like classes, but they're not exactly classes. When you reach level 30 in a Division 2, which is going to be the max level, you can choose a specialization. The examples that we've seen so far are Sharpshooter, Survivalist, and Demolitionist, which each give the player a different signature weapon. Sharpshooter gives you a 50 caliber sniper, Survivalist an explosive crossbow, and a Demolitionist gives you a grenade launcher. But it doesn't end there, because when you choose a specialization, you can then further progress that specialization, so to speak, to unlock more unique items tied to that specific specialization, such as new version of skills or different type of grenades, because yes, we cannot carry every single grenade type anymore at once, but certain grenade types, they will be tied to certain specializations. Where these specializations differ a lot from traditional classes though, is that you're never stuck with them. You can always swap them around, so if you want to play Sharpshooter, you play Sharpshooter, and then if you want to play Survivalist for the next mission, you can do that. You can progress through each of these specializations at the same time and then complete them all as well, so that when you're at the end game, you know, pretty much every specialization with every unlock completely maxed out is available to you. It's always going to be a choice, it's going to be a part of your build, and it's never something that you're locked into. Now, outside of specializations, we will of course also get some new toys to play with, new weapons obviously, but also some new skills. We have seen the Seeker Mine make a return, but so far we've also seen the Chem Launcher, which can shoot these projectiles with a toxic or burning effect, and according to the website, it can also be modded to heal up teammates. Not sure how that's going to work though. We also have this Hive skill, which is this thing that you sort of throw away and then it covers an area and then sends out these mechanical flies that will actually damage everybody who steps too close to them. So this is sort of an area of denial too. And then we've also seen the assault drone, which I think it should be fairly obvious what it does. It's a drone that assaults enemies, and through stat rolls on gear we also have the confirmation that we'll see some sort of shield make a return and a turret as well, although we haven't seen them visually in game yet, but these stats pretty much confirm that they're going to be in the game. The NPCs, they've also received a few upgrades. There are some more interesting mechanics with them this time around, with medics that can shock you with their defibrillator if you get too close, or NPCs that can root you by shooting this thing. I'm not sure what this is. It's some sort of foam that traps you into one position. And of course, we surely haven't seen anything yet. The developers have promised a lot more interesting mechanics this time around because they wanted to get rid of the bullet spongy enemies but still make the game difficult. So yeah, that's also another thing. Bullet spongy enemies have been reduced by a lot. They're not completely gone. You're still going to have some very tanky enemies, but in the case with the Division 2, these tanky enemies are mostly going to be bosses or named NPCs, and it's gonna make sense why they're tanky because they will be fully decked out in bulletproof armor, you know, from top to bottom that you will have to destroy before you can damage their health. So I guess it does make some sense this time around when you have to unload a whole magazine into an enemy. And all these mechanics, they've been added to the game in order to make the gameplay more interesting, which all goes hand in hand with the idea that endgame is a much larger focus this time around. The developers really want the players to keep playing and not get bored. They're creating a map where content doesn't really dry up because we'll have active NPC factions that are constantly fighting for control over the city against each other, but also against you. And once you, for example, take over a place, it doesn't mean that that place is always going to be yours. If you leave that place, go somewhere else, it could be that another NPC faction takes it back from you. So instead of just doing the missions and the side missions and the dark zone, you also have this whole PvE world that's dynamic, which then allows players to have a lot more fun, you know, see that the world is somewhat alive and not as dead as with the Division 1. But then, of course, aside from that, we will also have really big endgame activities. We have 8-player raids. The Dark Zone is, of course, back. In an interview with Skill Up, they've teased that survival might be coming back. And also, there will be clans in the Division 2. There will be a clan system that will allow you to find other players to play with a lot more ease. Because, you know, 8-player raids, that's going to be difficult to matchmake right off the bat. And they have mentioned that the 8-player raids are actually very difficult raids. It's the end game content for the hardcore players only. But the rest of the game is still going to be as relevant for maybe the more casual audience. I just hope that the best gear in the game isn't locked behind just doing raids. Oh, and the creative director also confirmed that upon completing all the main missions on the map, the player is going to be in for a special surprise that will revamp the entire map. But there are no details here yet, so we can't really talk about this. But what we can talk about is what makes the Division special, is what separates it from the other games out there, which is, in my opinion, the gearing game and the character building. Now, just like with the Division 1, players will have to grind for gear with all sorts of stats on them, and then use all that different gear with different stats to create cool and unique builds, so to speak. In the gameplay, we apparently haven't seen all the changes to gear yet. The developers have some more stuff for us that they're gonna show off over the upcoming months, but we do have some information, so for now I'll just go over that real quick. First up, main stats, as we know them from the Division 1, such as firearms, stamina, and electronics, they are gone, they've been removed, and they've been replaced with an increase in major stat rolls on gear, which at first glance means that player builds might look a lot less extreme because you can't spec as much into firearms or as much into stamina as before, but the developers have also promised that they really want to keep building on the RPG part of the game and they will not simplify the game down. Again, there's a whole lot of stuff that apparently we haven't seen yet, and that's still coming. And one of the things that they're doing to compensate for the loss in main stats are the gear brands. Every piece of equipment in the Division 2 will be from a certain manufacturer, so from a brand. And if you wear 2 or 3 items of the same brand, you will also get some extra stats or talents on your character. Now, initially I had the idea that gear brands would be replacing gear stats, but that does not seem to be the case. It seems that we'll have both in the game. So we have the major stats, then we have the talents, then we have the gear brands, and then we have the gear set bonuses potentially underneath that or on top of that. But again, no footage of the gear sets yet, so I kind of want to wait to see until I talk more about that. Now, another important change when it comes down to gear is that weapon mods will no longer be lootable items. You cannot loot weapon mods anymore in the Division 2. The way that you unlock those weapon mods is that you will have to do some certain missions, and then you will get those weapon mods as a reward, and once you have them, they will always be yours. You will always have them with you. They will not take up inventory space. They will just be on a separate tab, and then you can put them on as many weapons as possible. So the grind for weapon mods is going to be gone, and this is supposed to do 2 things. 1, make the inventory much cleaner because the mods will not clutter your space anymore. And then 2, make the boss drops more exciting because you cannot just get a legendary drop and oh, I finally got my first high end, and then oh, it's just a weapon mod. So yeah, that's basically the idea behind it. But mods, they will not just work as stat boosts for your weapons, because they will also come with some negative stats now. So there will be some mods that actually reduce your accuracy, your critical hit chance, your critical hit damage, but then increase something else. So depending on the weapon or the build or the gear that you have, you're actually going to want to equip different mods now. Sounds pretty interesting, but again, we'll have to wait and see a little bit longer until we know for sure how that works. There are also a ton of other quality of life and user interface improvements that are coming to the game. For example, the emote wheel, it has been changed into an emote grid, allowing for more and faster access to emotes when using a controller. And the optimal range for weapons in the inventory will now be displayed with this graph, which gives you a little more insight on how steep the drop-off really is and where it ends and all that information. Now the game is set to come out on March 15, 2019, and it will be supported with free content updates that expand the story, the map, and the gearing game for a whole year. There is something similar to a season pass that you can get, which gives owners extra content during the year. But from what they've said so far, it's not going to be content that will split up the community, so it's most likely going to be maybe cosmetics, outfits, and that kind of stuff. So if you don't get that season pass, you will at least be able to play all of the content in the game. You just might miss out on some outfits. And that is everything that we know about The Division 2 after E3 in just, what was this, like 10, 11 minutes? I don't think I could have gone much faster there. If you want to know any more details about any of these topics whatsoever, I already told you, but I've made somewhat more in-depth videos about all of these topics if you want to check those out. And of course, if there's something that I missed, or if there's something that you want to know, you know where the comment section is. For now though, I'll see you guys later, or like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.